This is an open letter for Mr. Matt Walsh. Bravo, sir. Bravo. Salute. Bravo that you have made your views well known so others can make comments, because not talking is not the solution. I don't think these people who protested a slaughter of a whole bunch of native people over there should be hanged from their nuts. It's not a good idea, because if you can't solve a problem with words, that's when you try to solve it with guns, and that's the wrong way to go. So ignoring each other and not coming and stating exactly how you feel, am I a racist, makes it clear that we can actually say, hey, yes, you are, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's sort of like, because without you admitting it and saying that I'm racist, because these people are shit. Again, we went over this in my last video, in which I said the shit is yours. If it's a tree grows in your yard, it's your responsibility. How you want to shape it, how you want to form it, what kind of a fruit, what quality of. You can't choose what kind of fruit it gives. That comes with the seed. That's predetermined. But you can make sure that it's whatever fruit it gives is quality. By doing what? By more or less spending all your resources in raising your next generation. Come to think of it, USSR did that, and now everybody knows the USSR of people with brains. Everybody, friends and enemy, admit that USSR is full of brainiacs. Why? Because USSR put education of all the people based on their aptitude, put it first. Then, therefore, they couldn't outspend Uncle Sam in terms of military. But Uncle Sam has always said, I don't care about the education of our people. I don't care. I'm all about military. So, if you don't educate your people, if the tree that has fallen, the seed has fallen in your yard, the tree has come out, and it's going to give some kind of a fruit, or at least a really good shade. The rest is up to you, how much you fertilize and groom that tree, how good the fruit you want it to be. The guy can jump 6 feet straight up. Whether doing this will earn him a good living, that's up to you as a society to determine. But you can't say, no, we don't need anybody we don't need that many people jumping 6 feet in place. We only need a handful. The rest of you, jumping in place at 6 foot in place is not going to earn you a living in this society. Because we don't care about your aptitude. And we don't care about educating and bringing to surface your aptitude through education. We don't do that because that's very expensive, and it's not our problem. Everybody has to pull their own weight. Then you don't have a society, you have a jungle. Here's the thing, new stuff. This is what I covered in the last video. About this video. You basically said that they tear down statues of American heroes and replace them with statues of random obese black women. That's because the left has no historical heroes. Everyone who was born before approximately 2005 is inherently problematic. This was your comment on a tweet in which carried apparently somebody with a lot more brain than me had put this statue of an unknown black woman, as you said, obese, in the middle of the Times Square. And I think And this was your response to that. Here's the thing, Mr. Matt Walsh. Be careful who you choose as heroes. American heroes, statues of American heroes. And I'm neither from your southern. I'm an alien on this planet, so I'm neither a southerner nor a Yankee, nor any. I am stateless, as we speak, literally stateless. So, as an alien on your planet, I have advice, and that is, Mr. Walsh, be careful who you choose as heroes. As an alien, the place I was born in, that shithole I was born in West Asia, the most well-known square in the fucking city was named after a poet. Named after a poet, the most important, well-known, oldest square is the name of that poet. You can say the guy is a hero of the native population. How many statues of poets are erected in Washington, D.C.? Or Virginia, or Tennessee? How many poets' statues are up? How many writers, how many poets, how many inventors' statues are up as comparing to those whose profession involved killing or ordering the killing of a lot of people? They chose to take that position to order killing or execute killing of a lot of people. You put their statues up. The biggest one is Abraham Lincoln. The biggest statue in the whole country is a statue of the president who was responsible for a whole lot of killing. And his equivalent in the South, their statues were brought down exactly for the same reason, because they were involved in the killing of a whole lot of people. So that's why I'm saying they all should come down. Why? Because if you're not a hero if you're involved in giving orders that results in killing people, people getting killed. You're not a hero, but you're getting it upside down. Those who have been more involved. There are how many statues of Queen Elizabeth is around England? They have them on the fucking money. The person and the family of someone who has been involved with a whole lot of killing is on the fucking money. Why are you so obsessed with killing? Killing of the other for the survival of self. In this cave, but with this cave mentality, you think you have the right to choose heroes? Oh, this guy killed more of their tribe for the benefit of our tribe. Benefit of whom? How many people benefit during a war? Very, very few people. The war between the North and the South in the United States was literally the industrialist money wanted to dominate the agriculture money. It was a fight between very few people. The very, very handful of rich people in the North and handful of rich people in the South had a beef. 500,000 people died until the beef was settled. Then you started so many hot wars around the world because you wanted to keep a cold war with Russia, so therefore you came up with all kinds of reasons to start a whole lot of hot wars around, proxy wars. And now you're involved in still more wars because, the Western white people want to dominate the globe, and the rest of the globe is not really in the mood for domination, being dominated, or they're getting out of the mood of being dominated. They feel they earned the right to be independent. But you're saying no. You see, the same people, again, Mr. Matt Walsh, be careful who you choose as heroes. That's what gives the mentality to your people that these are heroes. Why? Because they were involved in protecting us. Who is us? I know I got to pay taxes to somebody. I'm not going to be the ruler. 99.999. You got one ruler, handful of rulers. 10% of the population rule. 90% are being ruled. And those who are being ruled don't benefit from any war, are not involved in the rule at all. Yet you call it democracy, and somehow democracy is supposed to, but how the people have spoken. They are against all kinds of bloodshed, but the leaders feel bloodshed is necessary to protect their interest. Whose interest? The 90% interest? No, the 10% interest has to be protected by war if it has to be. And the common 90% are not in it. They're not with it. There are videos out. The Ukrainians are being dragged into the front line. Dude, he doesn't care. He's okay with paying taxes to Russia, as long as it keeps him alive. So what's the problem? So this is a war between the Russian rich and the European rich. And who started it? The American rich. Who's going to benefit at the end? The American rich. Both Russia and Europe are going to go back to hell, supposedly, in the World War III, because now Germany is arming. It took one Victoria Nolan and one Mrs. Clinton to take this fucking European down the same path they have been in multiple times. It took like a handful of people. If you're that stupid as a society that you glorify those who were involved in killing, these are good people because they killed for us. No, I gotta pay taxes. Whoever rules me, I pay taxes to them. The problem is that those who are ruling, one wants more, the other one doesn't want to give it up. The Ukrainian rich, who are apparently have sold out their brains, or maybe the money that elected came up with such a solution for Ukraine, maybe that money wasn't Ukrainian. Probably wasn't. The investment was from the Anglo-Saxons, US, UK, France. The investment was from NATO in Ukraine to start some shit. We own it, or you want to go to war, Russia. Either give it to us or you go to war. Salute. Who are your heroes, Mr. Matt Walsh? Your heroes we can conclude from this paragraph that all wars are because of the benefit of very few. They're rich people against our rich people. Who benefits the most at the end of the war? The rest of the people like me and you have to go, get killed. So the rich people can, measure their dicks. But my point is this, that you as a common man understand that, not only you should say, okay, we think it's a good idea that our general statue should be taken somewhere in a park as a historical monument and not be worshipped at the crossing as a cultural monument, because it was a bad culture, the culture of killing for profits, because to protect the interest of very few rich people is a bad idea. Yeah, you can take it to museum and put it as a historical pieces, and that's what you should have done a long time ago. And then the Southerners should ask the Northerners to remove their statues that represent their killers. because who did they kill? A bunch of Southerners. So, and then the two sides agree that you should start erecting statues of inventors and thinkers and doers and poets and writers and those who are involved in building a better culture for you. Those are the heroes. Not only you're not saying that, okay, good, you brought our statues down, yes, but we prefer them to move them to museum, and we will do so from now on. We will send our killers to the museum. And then you would ask the Northerners to take their pieces to museums and not, worship them as Mr. Abraham Lincoln is worshipped, who represented the industrialist North who wanted to dominate the Southern rich men. End of story. And one way of dominating the Southern rich men is to take away its free labor. That would be their slaves. Then they wouldn't be making so much money because the added productivity doesn't go to just one person, and the slaves are free. Now the slaves can demand a livable wage for their labor. Here's the thing, your views towards the gays and the gender odd society. Here's the thing, sir. The problem is that you don't keep the odd ones around because you don't understand. If one of your children suddenly just wakes up one day and say, hey, I'm gay, that child will not be kept around for a long time. You wouldn't, because you are you have come up with certain set of beliefs that just doesn't work out with the odd one. So the odd one figures this out early, and at the soonest time, at their earliest time, they will leave your house. Maybe 17, maybe 18, maybe 16, they will leave your house because they understand, that person understands that they're not welcome because of maybe their odd behavior, or odd perspective, odd sexuality, odd this, odd that, odd the other. They leave. Where do these guys go? In long time ago, this is where you came about in this, when I came about in this. You went to Africa and you interviewed the natives whether they know anything about gender dysphoria or something like that, and the natives started laughing at you, and you didn't understand what the natives were saying. When you ask them about gender dysphoria and if you know anybody who's gay or transgender or this and that and the other, you didn't understand them. But they did say what happened. They ate them for lunch. When you said, "Do you have transgender?" they laughed at you and they said, "Yes, we did. We had him for lunch." What I'm trying to say is that they do the same thing literally to albinos in Africa. Forget about people, oddballs of other kinds. Even the physical oddballs, such as albinos, if you research on the internet, they cut them to pieces and then distribute them because apparently it's supposed to bring some kind of good luck to them. Pieces of bodies of albinos. That's they're very old beliefs, whether it's right or wrong. The point is that they don't keep tribes, they don't keep any oddballs around. That has been that's the same thing with forget about oddballs. If you go one step farther back and say, don't even keep the weak ones around. In a tribe, not only they don't keep oddballs around, they don't even keep the weak ones around because they're heavy burden. They're an unwanted burden because if you're weak and you can't pull your weight, you're out. Again, we go back to the idea that you you're no longer monkeys, Mr. Matt Walsh. You have come up with some kind of civilization that you build cities. That means you can't really continue with this mentality that if you're odd, if you're weak, if anything, any issues, you're out in the street, and you know, either go hang yourself and or have somebody hang you, or we're going to put you in a room and lock it up and throw away the key. You're past that stage. Yes, the African tribes, they don't have any oddballs, not even, you know, albinos, because they had the albino for dinner. Even if they don't eat these oddballs, the tribe shoos the oddballs out and they go and die in the middle of the desert, and it's not something they're proud of. They're just, you know, but it's not something that they're proud of, that somebody comes from outside the tribe and asks them, do you have any oddballs, sexually or otherwise? And the guy says, yes, we do. Actually, here is my cousin, is an oddball. Here's my... No, the oddballs are out. If not eaten, they're out. And that is out. You go out, fend for yourself in the middle of the desert, you know. No other tribe will also accept you, so you are basically left to die. You know, you can't survive for long as one person in a hostile environment, or even in a good environment. Even good environments have some hostilities. My point is this, that of course they don't have any, and your ancestors didn't have any because they were pushed out. But what's the difference between now and then, Mr. Matt Walsh, is that when you push them out, the oddballs, the weak ones, and example of this, years ago I was, you know, selling cars in Phoenix, Arizona, and a guy came, I sold a car to him, and while in the process, he told me all about who he was. It was a Mennonite from Idaho, Iowa, I don't know, something with I. He was a Mennonite, but he was on the weaker side physically, and it became obvious why he's here in Phoenix, Arizona, is because he was a weak child, weak man physically. So basically, in his tribe, where polygamy is okay, which, you know, which many places still are, if not legally, at least, you know, practically. That's why, you know, a rich Mormon like Mitt Romney has such a big family. Obviously, you know, this is just not the production of one wife, but still it's a, you know, it's not legal, but it's probably it's, you know, customary, and everybody's okay with it. But the point is this, where do the weak ones go? Where do the men who had to copulate with these women in the tribe, where do they go? The ones that the tribe feels these are not up to the par. They used to be left to die in the middle of desert, not surviving on their own, but now they go into the cities. All your oddballs go into the big cities. So proportionally, cities have a bigger number of oddballs. Anybody who wasn't wanted by their own tribe is in a big city. You know, if you have a nice, accepting home or village, you stay in your village. If you're a bit of an oddball, you have to basically go until you find a place that oddballs are accepted. To Uncle Sam. Anyway, my point is this. So these people exist, and it used to be you send them out to desert and they died and problem was solved. Now these people have found each other, they go to cities, and cities are full of oddballs. So proportionally, they're always going to have more. These oddballs find each other, so they become influential in large cities, because now all the oddballs from the tribe are in the cities. So it's like maybe an eighth of the city is gay, because all the gays from the whole of the United States have gone to San Francisco. So it's eighth of the city is gay now. 1/8 of the population, for example, or maybe not 1/10 of them, who knows. But my point is this, but they have a voice now because they are together. They form a majority somewhere, at least in a couple of streets, there's a couple of, in a few counties, they form a majority. So their voices are heard in your educational system, and you're aghast that these, sexual, what you consider depravities, and I may agree with you on a lot of them, but you're aghast that these sexual depravities have found their way in education of the children, not recognizing that these are your oddballs that you couldn't tolerate. You send them out. They didn't go and die. They went to the cities, and in the cities they found each other. Over there, they have some kind of a clout, and they can also put in books their sexual preferences, which you guys are not comfortable with. So I'm going to homeschool my children, and okay, you can do that, but you see, this problem is not going to be solved like this, because you push and they push back. You say, the reason we threw out our oddballs is because we don't want to know about their ways. Now they're teaching their ways in our schools because the cities are making the rules about the education. So pretty soon, if these odd behaviors in general are not introduced to the county boys, the cities and the countryside will stop being able to communicate with each other. You send your oddballs to the cities. These oddballs have a clout in the city because their numbers they're united, because. So they have some clout, and you don't want to talk to them, they don't want to talk to you, and good luck. Salute. But please don't tell me that because oddballs don't exist in Kenya, some Kenyan tribe, that means what is this? The oddballs should not exist, basically. It's like, no. The Kenyans eat their oddballs. Do you want to start? I'm sorry, I usually don't take notes, but this time... So those people, to put it simply, those people who ran away from the villages because they were oddballs, now they are ruling all the villages from the cities, because it says central federal government, or even states. Again, the oddballs from the villages go to the state capitals. So the state capitals become, very blue, and the rest of the state is very red. This is the problem of your intolerance, Mr. Matt Walsh. Your intolerance, your racial intolerance, your all kinds of intolerance that you have, that intolerance makes a lot of people oddballs. Your perspective is making that intolerance possible. And that is your religious perspective. You are applying. I'm not saying you shouldn't believe in something. Fine, believe in something, but applying the methods, practices, and methods of a very bad poem book. In case of all religions, applying a very historical books, methods, and practices to today without actually trying to analyze the problem and solve the problem. Just say, because the book says like this, we're going to do it like this, come what may. Armageddon may. So, these runaway oddballs are running the educational system from the state capitals, and even better from the federal. Up to now it was from federal. Apparently Mr. Trump demolished the Department of Education because you don't want the oddballs to writing the educational books. Well, if you had accepted the oddballs in your societies so they wouldn't have to migrate to the cities, now you wouldn't be so out of tune with your own oddballs in the cities. Again, these are not from another planet. These are just your own oddballs. If you can keep them in your own communities, they will always remain a minority, and your children, wouldn't, have to study about their sexual preferences. But that's if you accept them really in your communities as minorities, and you don't, send them all to the cities. In the city, they form a majority in some way or another. Now you have problem because they want to tell everybody about their sexual preferences. Because to them that's normal. And they can do it because somewhere they form a majority. You wanted a way out of it. If you have kept them in your villages by accepting them, then they would never form a majority somewhere in the city to try to teach everybody else about themselves. Salute. In general, it seems, Mr. Matt Walsh, that you are basically you want to become the Amish of the free world, of the digital world, the new digital world. You want to be an Amish to that, with your views with regards to I'm going to keep this digital screen away from my kids and family. I'm going to do this. This is what the Amish said when they came to Industrial Revolution. Came up to Industrial Revolution, the Amish said, oh, no, we don't want to do that. We want to continue what we're doing because we think that's problematic. And they were right. If you don't manage your large cities well, and your industrial, you didn't manage your industrial revolution well. You didn't manage it well, because we see all the casualties of your industrial revolution. Amish have no casualties. They didn't go through an industrial revolution, so they had no casualties, and they still pay their taxes and do, behave socially. He's not behaving socially. But you are going down the same path. At this point, you're saying, no, I don't want to be a participant of the digital evolution. And I'm going to keep it away from my children and this, that. You can do that, but don't be surprised if your children later on in life your children become resentful of you. Imagine one of your children eventually someday becomes a graphic designer who works with graphic software 20-30 years down the line. Imagine how upset that kid would be with you because you kept him or her away from digital designing until they could become independent. They would think that they would have had a much faster start if they had access to digital manipulation earlier in life, which you prevented by keeping them away from screens. Just like, some Amish kids become very resentful, but very few become resentful because by the time they are allowed outside of the Amish community, they are already set in their ways. And it's a way of living. You want to do that, that's fine, but you're going to remain a part of the minority of the society. For good or bad, the digital and the screen is here to stay. But while you keep wanting to stay with what you know rather than what is, you want to behave as a new group of Amish who resist the evolution of technology. Here is what is missing from your puzzle, sir. Your puzzle that is okay. You understand this part that all the country sends their oddballs to the cities, and cities becomes a lot of oddballs, accumulation of a lot of oddballs that now have a majority and they can have a say in, for example, education books. Now add to that another perspective that there is such a thing as mouse-topia. You research, Mr. Matt Walsh, you research mouse-topia. I'm sure you have already done so, you have seen it. So when you go through the process, I have a feeling it's 99% the same with humans. The whole idea of mouse-topia, which, they put a select number of, they put 5 mice or 10 mice or whatever in a enclosed area which had the capacity for 10,000 mice, and the 5 mice copulated and made their numbers up to 2,000, but although the complex had like 10,000 holes which could theoretically accommodate 10,000 mice, but it stopped at 2,000. Their numbers stopped at 2,000 and suddenly fell into decline and went into extinction. And the explanation comes, once you read it, the explanation comes that, some mice became very aggressive after their numbers reached to 2,000. Some mice became very aggressive, some mice stopped copulating, some mice became gay, some mice became this, basically the society became dysfunctional in this space that was provided to these rats, to these mice. This space became dysfunctional, the society became dysfunctional at 2000, although they had 10,000 holes which could accommodate potentially 10,000 rats. My point is this, that we already know that cities are where population decline happens. We already know that from rats, that because of the compactness of cities, and the result of that is usually mouse-topia, in which the city people who live in the city stop reproducing. Or in the mouse-topia situation, it was such a thing that some of the mice who bear children after reaching 2000 breaking point. Some of the mice who bear children started eating their own children, not knowing the objective of reproduction, period. Not knowing the objective. So basically means that, let's say for example, the space that they provided was for 10,000 mice, so the cutoff number became 2,000. Now, if you take this step, if they had provided a space for 100,000 mice, I'm sure the cutoff point would have become 20,000. You see where I'm going with this? Because the space was for 10,000, only 2,000, the cutoff point was 2,000 when the society went to shit. Became dysfunctional. Now, if they had provided 100,000 space enough for 100,000 mice, I'm sure that 2,000 would have become 20,000. The sustainable population, at which point it started declining. In other words, I'm saying, sir, Mr. Matt Walsh, you want population growth, you can't force it down people's throat. The guy cannot have a five kids in a 2-bedroom apartment inside the city. Just can't happen. You did it, good for you, you made it out alive, but many don't do it, and if those who few do it, go crazy and hang themselves. My point is this: just like the rats, humans, you have to space them apart if you want big families out of them, period. That's the only way. Cities are where, you know, small family is logical and is therefore preferable for most people. It's a compact area. And why people live in the cities? Because it's cheaper. You know, and the governments like cities because the economic footprint of the cities is much smaller. You know, you bring one pipe of water and you take care of 10,000 people, where in the county you have to go for miles to bring electricity or water or cable or whatever. My point is this, that your owners have decided to go the way of large cities, and your population is declining because now in large cities, as I said, the dysfunctionality goes on the rise. You know, now want it be criminal dysfunctionality, sexual dysfunctionality, the cities goes on the rise, and it's statistics. Please look this up. There is a inverse I know the word in the other language, but not in this language. There is an inverse contact, inverse equation, inverse condition between the degree of urban household and growth of population. So as the number of urban households grow, the growth of population declines. And this, you can find this chart everywhere on the internet. So urbanization is the main reason behind your population decline. And you see that all the oddballs that you have sent to the cities, all the oddballs, from the albinos to the gays to the whatever else you found odd in your family, in your village, in your town, in your suburb, whatever oddballs you didn't want was you sent to the cities. And in the cities, these people are compact, and the mouse-topia situation happens, and a lot of these people become dysfunctional because of mouse-topia reasoning. The result is that, yes, the textbooks become a little odd, with a lot of, you know, odd things for the kids in the county to read about. And you stop understanding each other. The fact that your oddballs have become the nucleus, and the dysfunctions, this people with dysfunctionality that the cities produce, just like Moustopia, because of overpopulation in the cities, then you find out that you really will stop understanding each other, and then you leave the education to the states. And I can assure you that it won't even stay there. At one point, the counties, the cities, the villages want their own educational system, and that's what homeschooling is. This is basically, I'm going to teach my kids exactly what I want to teach my kids, because you oddballs in the cities and in the state capitals and in the federal capital, you oddballs are messing up my kid. Solution? Stop being mean to your oddballs so they don't all go to the cities, and start depopulating your cities. And by way of inviting them to the countryside, and the government should give them free land. Hey, we take this land free, we give it to you, you can't sell it, you have to live on it and have a big family in it. You don't have to actually dictate that part about having a big family. You don't have to encourage anybody. If you give them the space, Mr. Matt Walsh, they will have a big family. They just need the space. Humans, like mice, if they're separated apart in an enclosed area where there has 100,000 holes for 100,000 mice family, you will get 20,000. But in a space that is enough for 10,000, you will get 2,000. Simple. But to really think about it, having more kids really doesn't make your life more meaningful than having less kids. Because, I mean, one fruit fly has a whole bunch of kids and another one doesn't. It's, if you think of yourself as a fruit fly, it really is inconsequential whether you're the one fruit fly that has a lot of kids or the one fruit fly that didn't. You can't say I'm driving more meaning out of my life by having kids. No, you're doing what fruit flies do. What even the fruit flies do. So, but do you think a fruit fly who has had offspring, do you think that fruit fly has had a more meaningful life? Not really. Again, this is coming from an alien who was born in a place that they had a poet's name on their main square. Poet's name and a poet's statue on their main square. It wasn't about conquering much. It was about being. And that's the thing, Mr. Matt Walsh. You're not about being. You want to be about being, but your rulers, the system that you are functioning under, is not about just being. It's about conquering. And that's where your heroes are the wrong heroes, Mr. Matt Walsh, because the system is feeding you these heroes. The system keeps telling you the heroes are the ones who kill the most, or who die in the process of killing. Those are heroes. I'm sorry, teachers are heroes, professors are heroes, poets are heroes, writers, historians are heroes. Killers, Queen Elizabeth and King George and King this and King that, they're the one we should put up in statues on the money. President this and president that who killed the most people is the most well known, just like Genghis Khan. There's something odd about it, don't you think? If your heroes are people who killed a lot of people, and when those people who died at their hand, whose ancestors died at their hand, when they get into power and pull down those statues, you say, what the hell? Why are you pulling down my statues? Between you and me, Matt Walsh, if I had to choose between a statue of a person who ordered a lot of killings or did a lot of killings himself, if I had to choose between that statue and a statue of a poet or that nameless black obese woman in Times Square, I prefer to go with that, because that black obese woman in Times Square, the statue of that woman, probably stands for a woman, a single black woman who's raising 2 kids by herself, probably, and on drugs, maybe. But again, that's the dysfunctionality of your society that you haven't fixed, period, because you don't feel everybody who is born on your land is part of your tribe. You think you're running a corporation, and anybody who can't pull their weight should be kicked out in the cold or die, whatever. Salute. So in general, Mr. Matt Walsh, please, just because you can't make sense out of it, that doesn't mean it's wrong and it's just, it can't be ignored. Because you cannot make sense out of it, it doesn't mean that it's wrong or it can be ignored. You have to research a little more, you have to travel a little more, but then when it really comes down to it, if you're not receiving universal basic income, traveling with 5 kids, it's impossible. Having any time off to travel with 5 kids or 4 kids or 3 kids is impossible, unless you're very wealthy. But is being wealthy a common thing in your society? It's not. So the idea that yes, you should have as many children as you can because even if you have to suffer, again, you have to define what is the objective. So we can, maybe your objective, you're one of those people whose objective is we the white people have to keep our numbers up so we can fight. You haven't fought enough, sir. I was looking at a map in which most of the world was somehow or other conquered and ruled by white Europeans at some time or other. Very small, proportionally, very small parts of the world had been left outside of white people's rule during the last few centuries. Maybe choosing poets as heroes, maybe it's a better idea. Maybe you get rid of your statues and ask the Yankees to get rid of their statues and start putting some statues of real heroes up, like that nameless black woman who's raising 2 kids on one salary, for example. I think that she makes a much better hero than somebody who was involved in killing people to protect money for somebody or other, to protect wealth for somebody or other. Kill for money. These are your heroes? Soldiers are soldiers of money, one way or another. When you're a soldier, you're there for the money. You're there for the money, and you're in a system that is made to protect somebody's money. You get paid being a soldier, and then in a larger scale, your system is there to protect somebody else's money. Everybody involved with the military and war are there for the money, except the idealist young enthusiasts who are there for some idealist ideas. I remember Pat Tillman. The gentleman was nice, young, very heroic white guy from Arizona, and he went to Afghanistan to kill some Afghan goats on the mountaintops because he thought it is what they say it is. Why did he buy it? Because the educational system wasn't helpful to him when he needed it. But in reality, we all know it's all for money.